All right, grown-ups, it's just our time. I love the babies, but to help you, I gotta speak my mind. This segment's here to help you grow with book reviews, lessons, and things you'll be glad to know. If your little one's restless or looking to play, send them to my other playlist. The read-alouds there will brighten their day. Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back to the Teacher Lady Show. I'm Miss Erica, the Teacher Lady, your fairy godparent when it comes to sharing joyful stories and growing young minds. Now, on today's segment, we have the Teacher Lady Speaks, and that is a crash course or professional development on this week's topic, which is all about trying new things, okay? We want our children to try something new. We want them to be more adventurous, more willing to give things that are out of the ordinary a try. And today's episode is going to give you resources and insights, tips and tricks, and so much education around how you might be able to do that in your family. Now, if you have not already done so, go through the entire week. Mondays, we had 2 read-alouds all about trying something new and being adventurous. Wednesday, we had the behind the book reviews on those read-alouds. And then today, we wrap it all up with this episode of The Teacher Lady Speaks, a crash course in how to get your child to be more adventurous. Thank you for being with me, for growing with me. We're going to jump right in. You ready? Let's grow. How I would explain this week's topic to a young child. So whenever you're trying to get children to try something new or to be adventurous, I would explain that everything is new at some point. So at some point, eating food was new, right? They started off with a bottle or maybe feeding, and then maybe they went into soft foods, and now they out here eating bags of chips and everything in between. Everything is new in the beginning. And so when you have that child and they're on the play yard and they don't want to climb up the ladder because it looks high and it looks scary, you want to remind them at some point the slide was scary and new. And at some point, the sandbox was new. And at some point, it was your first time coming to the park in the first place. The more that you can normalize that everything has a beginning origin, the more your child might feel comfortable in exploring and trying something new. The other thing that I want to say, which I always sometimes bounce around in this segment, but the other thing that I want to say is that you have to be willing to let your child try something new. So for those of you who don't know, I was what's called a helicopter parent. I would say the first 2, maybe even 3 years of Addie's life, to be honest, I was a helicopter parent. It was very much so, don't go too far in the water, don't climb too high, don't touch too much, don't talk to this person, don't. And there is a point of safety, of course, right? We have to keep our kids safe, but then there's a point of paranoia and fear that actually is not their own. We put it there. A lot of times we project our feelings and our emotions as parents, caregivers, educators, or whatever onto our children. And as a result, it prohibits them from going as far as they could if we were not that way. So it's definitely takes some self-reflection in order to get your child to be more adventurous. If you're like, nah, that's not my problem, then maybe there will be other resources in this episode that are able to help you. Also want to say a lot of times there's a reason that we're a helicopter parent. I know for me, with my child, Addie was a twin. So I had 2 children and I lost one, okay? And that was super hard. But what it did unconsciously, or at the time I wasn't aware of it, is it made me very protective in a way that wasn't necessarily healthy when it came to her developmental processes. And around this time, I had a COVID baby. And so it's just a lot that went into the decisions around don't touch, don't do, don't try, don't look, don't. And I was putting that on her without recognizing it. Once I was able to recognize it, I've definitely, pulled back. I wouldn't say I'm as willy-nilly and wild as her dad is in terms of trying things, but I definitely give her the space to explore in a way that I didn't before. And as a result, Addie is adventurous. She wants to try things. She wants to go new places. And that list kind of continues. And so one of the biggest things for you and for your child is to allow them the space. You have to allow them the space, and the child has to be willing to try. And just by letting them know that everything has a new beginning, sometimes that's enough to encourage them to try it in the first place. All right? Let's keep going. What your child might be learning in school about this topic. Now, this week, our topic is trying something new. How do you get your child to be more adventurous and willing to try things that are unfamiliar? Now, we do this by comparing the state of Texas to the state of California to see what your child might be already exploring or learning within the educational system. Now, I will say that for this section, for trying something new, there is no mandated curriculum in the state of California, nor is there a mandated curriculum in the state of Texas. There are exploratory things within both curriculums. So California does encourage children to, or teachers to use hands-on project-based learning. So project-based learning is the difference between saying 2 + 2 = 4 and giving them some sort of math manipulatives, giving them some sort of project to solve that would help them to understand that, 2 + 2 = 4, right? There are a million ways to teach the same thing. And I am a strong believer as an educator that project-based learning through doing, learning through interacting always lands better for majority of our students. Now, some students, absolutely not. Some students have sensory differences, which means they actually don't want to interact in the same way, or it can be overwhelming. We have neurodivergent students. We have all sorts of different students. But I would say overall, I noticed the best response when it comes to even things like trying something new by being hands-on and having it there instead of it being a hypothetical or something that's just written out. And so that's also something you can do at home. So no, there's not a mandated curriculum, but you can definitely take the approach of maybe instead of telling your child, well, I was thinking we might go to a strawberry farm. Well, what do you think about that? Well, do you like strawberries? Are you scared it's going to pinch you, and kind of overwhelming them? Just plan the trip to a strawberry farm. Like literally just plan the trip, and then you can go together, and then you can talk about how this is a new experience, how much you loved it, what you didn't like, what was hard. And now you start to normalize these experiences. And so getting into hands-on project-based learning and exploration is definitely going to help your child be more adventurous. Now, of course, your child should have agency in something. So maybe you pick an activity one week, they pick an activity another. I don't know how it works in your home. And mine's, we tend to go back and forth. So like Addie picked the last movie, and so next time we watch a movie, it'll be my time. That is a good, easy way for you to feel like you're getting them and exposing them to new things without the child feeling like they don't have any sort of agency or ability to choose what happens in their day-to-day. So both are important. The ability to explore new things, but also the child's ability to also choose things for themselves. Now, in terms of Texas, their hands-on project-based curriculum is really honed in when it comes to their sciences. And so, think laboratory, think exploring new chemicals or animals or so on and so forth. That's where you're going to see the majority of their curriculum in terms of project-based learning. But neither Texas nor California, again, have something explicit that says by 3rd grade, the child will be able to blank, 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 blank. Now, school itself, there is a lot of there's direct learning where it's in the curriculum and it's written out, and there's just really learning by exploration and just being in the school environment. And so school itself really is them trying something new. They're meeting new friends, they're meeting new teachers, they have new seating arrangements, they have new classroom rules and school policies. I mean, they might have a new library or library process, they might have a new locker code. There's so many elements of adventure when it comes to a school setting that just them being there will expose them to something new and something different, a person with a different cultural background. That list continues. And so I definitely recommend that you have conversations around the things that they find odd or different or new in the school setting, and then go ahead and utilize that as a basis to get them to try something new. So for example, if your child observes that at lunchtime the soccer team is always playing soccer and they seem really friendly and like they're a little curious about that, you might introduce that as an idea that they try out for soccer. Or maybe we can look into you playing, or what do you think about that, right? And so find ways that are already there, already embedded, and really stretch those so that they start to be more adventurous and curious around, what's going on around them, because we love that. We love curiosity, we love adventure, and all of these things are important when it comes to getting your child to be outside the box and kind of really get to know the world that's around them and try different things. All right, let's discuss resources. So as always, every week I give you resources that will help you as the parent or caregiver or educator, help your students or children be able to really hone in on that topic. So this week on our read alouds, we had Giraffe Can't Dance. One of the things that I found for Giraffes Can't Dance, which is also a resource I wanted to share, is that they have an activity guide. And so you can go through, you can answer questions, which if you have a younger child, 4 or 5 to 8 years old or so, this activity guide will help to kind of get their brain thinking around what it means to try something new and what it means if you're not good at trying that thing right away. Overall, I just think it's a good activity guide to have. It's something you can complete relatively simply with your child, and it gives you a way to start to have the conversation around being more adventurous. The second resource I'm going to share is the Child Mind Institute. They have a section of their website called Building Resilience in Children, and I absolutely love this component because in order for children to try something new, they have to understand that there is a possibility of them failing. And so here's what I see time and time again. I encourage a student to do something new, and then they suck at it. They're not good. They lose the game. They decided to gamble their candy and now that's gone. Whatever ends up happening, but overall they don't feel good about the picture that they created or the clay that they sculptured or the game that they played. They don't like it. Nobody likes losing, right? It'll be very rare to find a child that prefers to lose. Very few people like losing. And what happens is when a person goes out to try something new and it doesn't work well right away, they tend to kind of be off put by whatever the thing is immediately. It's like westernized society teaches us to be perfect right away. And if you're not perfect right away, you shouldn't do the thing. And that's so not true. Every great comedian we see today, actor we see today, dancer we see today, even if that talent was put in them young, right? Even if you feel like the universe designed this person to paint, there was a point to where their paint looked like chicken scratch. Okay, there was a point to where they did not hold the brush in the same beautiful, elegant way that we see today. Everything has an origin story. Resilience and trying something new, they go hand in hand. You have to have a resilient child in order to have an adventurous child, because inevitably on that adventure, they will drop, they will fall, they'll scrape a knee, that list continues. And we don't want them to feel that because you weren't great right away, you shouldn't do the thing. Also, I would really love if we normalized having hobbies that we're just not good at. You don't have to be great at everything. You don't have to monetize or sell everything. Sometimes you get to just knit. It might be a sweater. It might turn out to be a jumbled sock, but you got to knit it anyway, and just enjoy knitting. Enjoy the people who are knitting with you. Enjoy the process of learning. Enjoy the colors without having to be good at it. And I think the more that we disconnect this idea of perfection to whether or not we should try to do something, the more we as a whole will be more adventurous and willing to learn about those who are around us. All right, the next resource I'm going to share is called kidshealth.org. Now, Kids Health has multiple activities for a wide range of age groups for children, but the one that I want to bring your attention to today is the articles that they have around trying something new and what they title as risk taking. Build confidence within themselves and be willing to even look at what it means to try something new and how to go about that. Kidshealth.org is a good resource in general. I would especially say that it is meaningful for this week's topic because, again, we have to teach children how to be adventurous. Now, sometimes you just get a wild card and they love to try something new. They love to do new stuff. They're adventurous by nature. And if that's the case, then I'm glad you're here listening to me talk, but you might not necessarily need to be. Other times we have children that are very to self and they struggle with that. And we want to break that early. And then, of course, we know that trying something new and confidence oftentimes go hand in hand as well. So just last week, we had an entire week on self-confidence, and I would recommend you check out that week's content as well, because it does take a bit of confidence to be willing to give something new a try, especially when we're not good at it. And then the last resource I'm going to share today, which, of course, if you want more, you already know what I'm going to say. Be sure to subscribe to the newsletter. Scroll down to the bottom of the website, put in your email address, and boom, you're there. But for now, the last resource I'm going to bring your attention to is you. That's right, you as the parent, okay? What is it that you are doing in your day-to-day life that you have not brought your kids in on that they could? You can be a first stop, because as parent, guardian, caregiver, loved one, teacher, that child feels safe with you. They feel comfortable with you. And so if we're trying to get them out of their shell, starting with somebody that they feel most comfortable with is an excellent resource and a way to be able to do so. And so if every Thursday you're taking items to the recycling and you're gathering all the bottles and you're putting them in the van, one Thursday after school, take your child to go with you. Have them go through the process of sorting, have them go through the process of recycling to understand the plant, understand what goes into it, and it will help. And acknowledge that they tried something new. Look at that. You've never been here before. I'm so glad you came with me today. Bring attention to the thing that you're trying that's new so that they understand that, oh, okay, this is normal. They start to normalize doing new things, and in turn, they're willing to do new things. All right, let's keep going. Best practices at home. One best practice is to ask them what they're curious about. What is that thing that you've been thinking about that you want to try but you haven't, and why? And again, if it's self-confidence, if it's their feeling that they're not going to be any good at it, definitely check out my week that I have on self-confidence. And if it's something else, explore that idea well. But one best practice is to have open, consistent communication with your child, because the more you understand your child, the more you will understand why they are resistant to trying new things. What is it about the new thing that is driving them to a point to where they don't even want to touch it, right? So sometimes you'll find out that it's not even that your child doesn't like trying new things. They just don't like bugs. And you keep wanting to go to this butterfly museum and that ain't for them, okay? We don't want to necessarily force our child to try new things in regards to phobias, but just to be adventurous in general is really special and important. The next best practice is vulnerability. If you can get your child to watch your process of trying something new, they will start to understand that it is possible. So my husband does stand-up comedy. Kenny Gabriel, if you were curious, go check him out. But he does not kid-friendly, but he does stand-up comedy. And my daughter dances, okay? So I have a daughter, Addie, who dances. I have a husband who does stand-up comedy. Now, Addie loves to dance. She does not like practice. And so her new something that she's doing is attending a pretty intensive dance class where there isn't a lot of room for interpretation. And Addie just wants to perform. She just wants to get on stage without practice, smile, dance, sing the words that she knows, have people clap for her, and go on about her day. She has no interest in the practice element. And what she said recently was, well, when I watch these movies, it just looks so fun. And she doesn't see the practice as fun. Okay, that is the new variable in the situation, is the practice. The girl been dancing and singing and acting since the beginning, right? But the new variable is now you're in this pretty dynamic, specific, choreographed class around your talent. And so what she stated was, I thought it was going to be fun. It's not fun. She just thought, we get in there, we have fun, we get on TV. Now, my husband does stand-up comedy, like I was saying. I'm going somewhere, stay with me. And he has a ton of practices, a ton. And so he recently went off 8 hours away to do a show and was practicing over and over and over and over and over again. And Addie got to witness him practice. And then she got to witness him perform. Okay. So she got to see the pictures of him performing, and she got to see him kind of talking to himself and mumbling to himself as he practiced. And he was able to use that situation to tie the two together. What he said was he absolutely loved every second that he was on stage performing. It is one of his favorite places in the world. He loves doing it. And guess what he does not like? Practicing. But he could not put on the best show possible if he wasn't able to practice. And then he was able to say, you remember all those days I was practicing, or I told you I couldn't play right then because I had to practice, or I was writing to, improve my joke, or doing all of this work around my comedy. And she would say, yeah. He was like, exactly. It's the same for your dance. And so the tying together those two things really, really helped Addie to be like, all right, let me do this. Let me try more when I practice. Let me practice because I'm recognizing I have to practice in order to perform well. And so when you're getting your child to try something new, using yourself and using that vulnerability as a way to get through to them might be helpful. It might not do nothing, right? All of these things are kind of you pick and choose, but it might be extremely helpful and beneficial for your child to watch you go through a new process, you go through something that they're struggling with. And from there, they better understand that if I just keep trying, I'll get where it is that I want to go. And then the last best practice, try something new once a month as a family. Maybe you pick a country on the map and you make a meal from that country. Maybe you explore a new museum or a new park, get to know a new person. Just really normalize being different, really normalize trying something new, being adventurous, being respectful while being adventurous, right? Just because we don't like it doesn't mean it's a yuck. It's just not for us. And all of those things will really help kind of bring your child out of their shell. Now, the last best practice is really understanding your child. So if you have a neurodivergent child, if you have a child that's autistic, it's going to be more of a challenge to try something new. Specifically autistic children, a good amount of them, I won't say all of them, they prefer routine. Very rigid. You will notice that they like the same foods over and over, the same places, the same schedule. It helps them a lot. And so when you do have a child who is autistic, you do have a child who is reluctant to trying new things because they are neurodivergent, then you have to take a different approach, okay? And that approach would literally be little by little. Okay, so all right, so I'm gonna put on my hat of experience. I've done ABA, I've done different therapies, I've done different supports with children who are autistic. Some I recommend, some I don't. But the point is that I have a good amount of experience. My degree is actually in special education with a focus on autism. And what I would recommend is that you go through a process for introducing new into that child's life. So we're not just going to throw them into a new school. That's not a good idea. First, drive to the school, then show the building, then have them get out the car. These are not the same days. When you are dealing with children who are autistic, it's a process. The best tool you have is time. You're going to have to find time. And then you're going to have them meet the principal. Then you're going to have them meet the teacher. That might be too much on the same day. Then you're going to show them where the cafeteria is, where the bathroom is, that classroom setting. You're going to show them their seat, their schedule for the day. You're going to inch them into that school setting however possible. Now, most people don't do this. Most people have 9-to-5 jobs. I gotta go. The school gonna have to get it. I gotta get out of here. And to that I say, you do the best you can. I will never pick a person who is trying. You do the best you can do. If you have the luxury of time and you're able to be with them that first day, you're able to spend some time with them in that classroom, it will help them to try that new thing. The same thing when introducing a new food. We're just gonna show it. We just gonna pick it up and show it. Then we just gonna put a little bit over here. Don't even worry about it. Then I'm gonna just eat it in front of you a little bit. Then I'm gonna try to place it in your hand. It might get thrown. Make sure you duck. Then I'm gonna try to have them smell it and look at it. And maybe one day they'll taste it. But it is a process. Trying new things when your brain is wired and based in routine is difficult. It's a whole nother. This episode was not, the full episode was not for neurodivergent. Everything that I said, if your child is neurodivergent, you put it through the filter now of your child. It's not that it's invalid information or bad information, but it is different depending on the child. And so if your child, okay, relies on routine heavy, you need to be more sensitive with how you introduce new things. It's that simple. All right. I said simple. I didn't say easy. I said simple. I didn't say easy. All right. Stay with me. Let's move on. Okay. When to seek help. This one this week is pretty straightforward. If your child just refuses, neurotypical, not neurodivergent, if they just shut down, nope, absolutely not, won't try it, won't look at it, won't smell it, won't explore it, won't, no. They're just kind of down and they don't want to ever do anything. They don't ever want to explore anything and it's drastic and it is affecting their quality of life. Get help. I always give you the same kind of sources every single week that you can go to for help. One, if we think that the issue is bigger, go see your medical doctor. Your medical doctor might be able to refer you out to certain specialists or therapists or get certain testing done just to make sure that something else isn't going on, that your child isn't suffering from depression or other mental health issue or something that we're just not aware of that is causing them to be so shut down when it comes to the possibility of trying new things. The second, go to your guidance counselor at your school if you have one. See what resources are available there. See if there's any group, maybe therapies or anything that might be able to help your child. And then the last resource that I will talk about this week in terms of if you have a child that's just, nope, absolutely not, never in a million days. I can't get them to try anything new. I could barely get them to do the things that they were once doing. Get libraries. And I say libraries because libraries are plugged in with community resources, as are churches. Churches are also supposed to be plugged in with community resources. You don't have to love the Lord and you don't have to love books. But if you go, you might learn something new. You might see a new thing that your child might like. You might be able to connect with another parent who has children your child's age and they're able to, kind of link up that way. You just never know what's waiting for you at church and at the library, all right? Especially when it comes to community church events. I'm not telling you to go to Sunday church service. What I am telling you is to explore when are their community days or their fun days so that you can get to know and understand that community. Churches are tax exempt. Most churches in America are tax exempt. That means that they are a charity. That means that they are there to help without profiting or benefiting from community. They're supposed to give to community, and any resources they get are supposed to go back to community. So utilize that. All right, let's move on. Common questions. Some of these we address because, I love to talk, especially on a Teacher Lady Speaks. It's kind of implied in the name, okay? One is, what if my child is scared to fail? If your child is scared to fail, show them failure. Show them that skateboarding video of the person skateboarding for the first time and falling down. Talk to them about your experience when you first started teaching versus you teaching 10 years later and how hard it was in the beginning. Remind them of a situation to which was once new for them and now they love it. You remember when you started rollerblading, you couldn't even put your shoes on. And now that's what you do every day after school. When you can normalize what we consider to be failure, okay, which I would try to remove that word, but what have you, when you can normalize that, it will help that child to figure out that I don't have to be perfect. It's all about exploration and trying something new in the first place. So it doesn't mean that I have to be good at it. It's not a requirement. All right. Moving on. The second question that I received, Comparison, the thief of joy. Well, what if my child compares themselves to others? So you put your child in an archery class and they cannot hit target for nothing. I mean, they can't even get the arrow on the board. And then right to the left is Vanessa, and Vanessa just pew, 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 back to back. She's just the queen of bow and arrows, okay? What do? Well, what you do is you bring it back to what they're good at. Where does your child shine? Are they articulate? Are they organized? Do they build things? Are they kind? What are your child's talents? You have to know your child's talents, because if you know your child's talent, you can say something like, she might be good at bow and arrows, and she might not be good at soccer. She might be good at bow and arrows and soccer, but hate cooking. You don't know her well enough to understand that this just might be her thing. We all have things that we're great at, like you're great at blank, and we all have things that we're not as good at, and that's okay too. Normalize children just having fun. Remove all the pressures of them having to be perfect. Let them enjoy the thing, and you will have more adventurous and children willing to explore. Okay. Wow, that is a mouthful. Before we get all the way out of here, I want to let you know that I'm also an author and illustrator. This is one of my books, My Hair is Too Big, but I also have 8 more in 2 languages, English, and I have a book in Spanish. But those books inspired something called the Pay It Forward program. What I realized is a lot of children that had inspired my books, they weren't able to get them. Their family was not able to afford them. So I started this Pay It Forward program as a way to make sure that children get intentional books, which of course increase literacy and so many other things. But get them books on purpose. That is the point of the Empathy Library, is to get children books on purpose. So if you are able to do so, go on the website, go donate a book, go purchase one of my books, go look at the 2 read-alouds we had this week, sign up for the newsletter, leave a comment, give me a pat on the back, pat yourself on the back. Thank you for being with me, and remember, until next time, to enjoy the moment or go be a joy in the moment. Bye.